Hello, listeners. This is Kat. Welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Little Acts of Kindness. This will be Part 9, Chapter 9, entitled Another Piece of the Puzzle. Izuku was eating breakfast when the knock at the door came. He looked at the time. It was only 7:30. He went to the door and opened it, seeing Mike-sensei. "Hey, little listener. How are you today?" the English teacher asked, giving a smile, green eyes bright. He shrugged, giving a so-so gesture. "Still not feeling up to speaking?" Izuku nodded. He had hoped that he could speak again by the end of the weekend, but it wasn't to be. The words still wouldn't come. "That's fine. Anyways, we accidentally arrived a bit early, so I just wanted to let you know. If you're ready, we can head out." He held up a finger. "You want me to wait a moment?" Izuku nodded. "All right, I'll wait right here then," Mike-sensei agreed. He returned to his room and grabbed his bag, slinging it on his shoulder. The bag had his school supplies and the small gifts he had for each of his teachers. Then he grabbed his tie and grimaced as he tried to remember how to tie it. The video he watched had been confusing. He huffed as he ended up with a messy result. Oh well. Exiting out of his room, he made his way to the front door and stepped out after giving a small hug to his mom, who made no move to return the gesture. Present Mike was leaning against the railing, on his phone. The man looked up, green eyes peering through the clear glasses as the teacher was in his civilian wear. "Ready?" Izuku nodded and headed down the stairs. Mike smiled and stayed close by as he made his way down the stairs. He found himself a bit better about being around Mike-sensei. The man wasn't like his previous English teacher at all. Izuku opened the backseat door and sat down. Aizawa met his eyes through the mirror. "Good morning, Midoriya." Izuku nodded and Present Mike slid into the driver's seat. "Midoriya still doesn't feel like talking." "Ah," Aizawa commented. "Do you know sign language, Midoriya?" He shook his head. We can see about teaching you sometime if you want," the homeroom teacher commented. After a short drive, they arrived at UA, and Izuku opened his door and got out while Mike-sensei went and opened the door for Aizawa-sensei. "Zashi, did you give Midoriya the new jelly packet?" "Ah, no, I forgot. Thanks for the reminder, Sho," Mike-sensei said, digging into a bag and pulling out a jelly packet. "Here, little listener, one grape-flavored packet, courtesy of my dorky husband." Izuku took the jelly packet, putting it in his pocket so he could use the crutches to walk. "I'm not a dork. You are." "No, you." Aizawa narrowed his eyes, lips pursed. "I will not delve into a childish argument with you." Mike-sensei stuck his tongue out. "Come on, babe, you know you love my childish self." His homeroom teacher rolled his eyes. "Like a fungus." "Oi, that's so mean, Sho," Mike whined. "Come along, Midoriya. We have class to get to," Aizawa said, walking away from Mike, who kept pouting. Izuku followed after the teacher, but glanced over his shoulder and saw the sappy face Mike-sensei was pulling. The man caught his gaze and smiled, giving finger guns. Soon they were in class, the first to arrive as the starting bell wouldn't ring for another 20 minutes or so. "Midoriya, do you want me to inform the class of your selective mutism?" Izuku shook his head. Even as he wondered what selective mutism meant, he never heard the term before, and when he could, he would have to ask Aizawa-sensei about it. He dug into his bag and pulled out his gift for the teacher, a thank-you card, since the homeroom teacher had mentioned it last time. Aizawa looked over the card. The man raised one wrapped arm and gently put it on his head. "Thank you, Midoriya," the teacher said, removing the casted arm. Izuku smiled brightly, glad that the teacher had accepted the gift. He sat down and pulled out the jelly packet, carefully opening it up and trying it. Once more, it was really good. The right amount of sweetness to really hit the spot. He caught Aizawa looking at him, and the man's eyes seemed almost expectant. Izuku gave a thumbs up and a large smile, and the teacher nodded, seemingly satisfied. Izuku could see why Aizawa-sensei would constantly eat them, if they were that good. About 10 minutes passed, and Ida came in, greeting him enthusiastically. Izuku just waved back, not saying anything. A couple minutes passed, and the door opened. Mike-sensei came in, now dressed in his hero clothes and carrying coffee with a straw. "Hey, Eraser, I brought you some coffee." "Thanks," the homeroom teacher muttered. Izuku blinked, finding it strange how differently they acted when they were just around people who knew they were a couple. Izuku knew that if Ida wasn't here, Mike-sensei would be holding the cup to make it easier for Aizawa to drink, which made him wonder why the two hid their relationship. Also, who all knew, it was obvious Recovery Girl did, as the two were really open with her around. But did all the teachers know? Mike-sensei left, and Izuku saw Aizawa dip his head down to sip the beverage. Not too long after the teacher finished the beverage, the room had started filling up with more classmates. Then the starting bell rang, and Aizawa took attendance. No announcement for today. Do you have any questions about the sports festival? A few questions were asked and answered, and then the teacher told them to study. The teacher sat down, closing his eyes. Hey, Deku, how was your weekend? Uraraka, one of the few students who picked up Katan's nickname for him, asked. She explained before USJ that she liked it because she thought it gave a you-can-do-it vibe, and it wasn't like Izuku was going to argue with her, that he wasn't comfortable being called that name. Izuku gave a so-so gesture with his hand, shrugging. The girl frowned at him for a moment, confusion clear. Your weekend was okay? He nodded, giving a thumbs up. Are you all right? Why aren't you speaking? Did you injure your throat? The damn nerd's just gone mute again. The wimp won't speak today. What do you mean, Bakugo? Ida asked with his hand-chopping motion. The nerd goes mute sometimes. He should be fine within another day or two. Is this true, Midoriya? Ashido questioned. Izuku nodded in response. Soon homeroom came to an end, and English started up. He handed the apple to Mike-sensei, who just nodded in appreciation. After English, the day passed by quickly, with Izuku taking a moment or two to give the teachers gifts, ignoring the strange looks his classmates gave him and the scoff from Bakugo. For heroics training, All Might had them go through some infiltration training, which Izuku unfortunately couldn't participate in due to his injuries. Then the day came to an end, and his class left for home, and he returned to 1A. He looked in and saw Aizawa-sensei wasn't there. So frowning, he waited 10 minutes or so before he went to try and find the homeroom teacher, or the English teacher, since finding one would probably lead to the other. He walked through the large school for a few minutes before he heard what sounded like laughter. Come on, just once, I promise it'll be fun. Midnight's voice purred. Nem, really? You know I'm going to say no. Mike's voice returned, slightly exasperated. Yes, I do know. Maybe I just like hearing you say no, the art history teacher replied, snickering. Oh, too many people agreeing to your proposals for fun? Yes, she said, Izuku seeing her throwing her hands up as he stepped around the corner. Little listener, Mike said with a smile. He paused, shifting the crutches to wave. What are you doing here so late, Midoriya? Shouldn't you be heading home? Midnight questioned, a concerned note in her voice. He looked over to Mike, who chuckled. I'm taking the little listener home to make sure he gets there safely. The art history teacher nodded. I see. I'll let you go on then. Thanks, Mike-sensei said. I'll see you later, Nem. See you. Izuku followed Mike as they walked away from Midnight. The English teacher shook his head. Now, let's go find Sho. Up here. Aizawa's voice floated down, causing Izuku to flinch and look up to see the homeroom teacher's face poking down from the surprisingly large vent grate. Sho! How the hell did you get up there? President Mike questioned, a look of stunned belief on his face. That's for me to know, and you to forever have as a mystery. There was a shifting, and then the teacher was falling down through the vent grate, and President Mike caught him, an annoyed expression on his face. I swear, Sho, you have got to stop disappearing into the vents to avoid the other teachers. Aizawa snorted. They never think to look for me there. Except for Nezu. The homeroom teacher just grunted, black eyes gleaming. Mike-sensei huffed. Let's get the little listener to his home. Hizashi hummed as he drove to pick Midoriya up, Shota in the passenger seat again. It was Tuesday morning and a bit overcast. He parked and then let the car idle as he went up the stairs, knocking on Midoriya's door. I'll be out in a minute. Izuku's voice came through the door, and Hizashi grinned. Glad that the little listener finally was up for talking again. A moment later the door opened, and Midoriya stood there, shifting on his crutches a bit as he closed the door behind him and locked it. Hizashi kept an eye on the kid as he made his way down the stairs, making sure the kid didn't trip. He handed over a mango jelly packet to the kid, who grinned, looking excited to try the new flavor. Actually, it kind of reminded him of how Shota's eyes lit up whenever he got his favorite flavored jelly packet. He did hope the kid wouldn't get as obsessed with them as Shota was. He got into the vehicle and listened as Midoriya enthused about how good the mango jelly packet was. Hizashi just knew his husband was smirking underneath those bandages. They arrived at the school, and he went off to change into his hero outfit while Shota and Midoriya went to Class 1A. Hizashi changed and gelled up his hair into his iconic style now that he was out of the car. Doing it before was just a pain, as the roof of the car ended up flattening the top. He stopped by the teacher's lounge, making a coffee with a lot of sugar for Shota. Then he went to the classroom and mentally sighed as he saw Ida was already there. The kid always was arriving early, which was a bit of a shame since he rather liked spending time with Shota in the morning before the class arrived. He gave the coffee, sad that he wouldn't be able to help his husband with the beverage, It was a simple action, but he loved helping Shota. It was just a nice domestic thing he could do to show the man that he would always be there. Shota didn't say anything besides a thank you, but his eyes conveyed another message. I love you. I appreciate this. Izashi just smiled, grinning a grin and a thumbs up. He went to find his own classroom and sat in the rolly chair and started spinning around, bored as he waited for his students to show up. Eventually they all did, and he checked the attendance for his general course class. Class ended, and he made his way over to 1A to teach English. He managed to finish the lesson early, and let the kids have the last 20 minutes to study and chat amongst themselves. Call me Sue, Midoriya. Asui's voice called out, and Hizashi glanced up from his phone. But... The boy stuttered, looking nervous. The girl with the frog quirk frowned, tilting her head a bit. We're friends. You can call me Sue. As soon as she said friends, Midoriya went completely pale and was shaking even worse. The kid's wide green eyes met his, then glanced to the door, a silent plea to escape. Midoriya, could you take this to Eraser for me? He should be in the teacher's lounge, he said, earning a relieved look as the kid hobbled up and took the paper. Thank you, the boy quietly whispered as he took the hastily scrawled note in hand and left. He was just glad that the kid thought to ask him, even if it was silent. The little listener had trusted him enough to even give such a clue as to what he wanted. Sensei, why did you ask Midoriya? Ida questioned. What kind of dumbass question is that? Bakugo questioned with a scoff. Frog Girl obviously gave the damn nerd a panic attack, and Mike Sensei was getting Midoriya out of the room. What? A couple of the students questioned, surprised that Bakugo knew what was going on. Bakugo scowled. Deku doesn't have friends, and people trying to force friendship on him cause a panic attack. Why does he get a panic attack from people wanting to be his friends? Kaminari asked. Hizashi listened carefully as Bakugo pinched his nose. Look, a couple shit extras basically befriended Deku back in middle school. Once they learned what he was scared of, they basically forced him into such a situation. They found out he was scared of small dark closets and bugs, and they thought it would be a good prank to force him to confront his fears, so they shoved him into a room that another kid with an animal control quirk had filled with insects. Then that same kid commanded the bugs to attack Deku. I heard what was happening and ended up having to pull the damn nerd out. He had to go to the hospital afterwards, and all further attempts at friendship were met with panic attacks. That's horrible, Uraraka gasped, the others nodding and saying their own agreement. Hizashi was inwardly having his own panic attack, just hearing of the bugs. Hizashi inwardly shuddered. The school must have expelled those two, right? Ida questioned. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Nah, the school gave them detention for a couple of days. What? Seemed to be the collective answer. Bakugo frowned. What? It's not that big of a deal. Sure, what they did was bad, but the school isn't going to expel them over something as simple as a prank gone wrong. Dude, that's seriously messed up, Kirishima muttered. Hizashi frowned, glancing at his phone as Yagi said Midoriya had arrived and that Shota was helping the kid, and that Hizashi should inform Nomuri that the kid was excused from her class. He sent a thumbs up, then typed out what he had learned from Bakugo to share with Shota later, once his husband had gotten the story from Midoriya. The class came to an end, and he said that Midoriya would be absent for her class, and she nodded. Then Hizashi went to his next class. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 9 of Little Acts of Kindness. Chapter 10 will be next. Hope you all are still enjoying it as always. Thank you so much for listening.